Hey, what's up? I'm Eric Robertson, and in this video we are going to break down one of the most popular TED Talks ever. It's called How to Know Your Life Purpose in 5 Minutes. We're going to look at 10 different strategies that this person uses while speaking in order to make this such a popular TED Talk, so let's take a look. So first of all, titles matter. Notice the title of this, it's on YouTube. So this is kind of clickbaity, right? How to know your life purpose in 5 minutes. But hey, it works. If you know your message and if it's something that attracts people, hey, go for it. I mean, it really does deliver what it is that he's actually promising here. The title matters. It brings you in. It's another way to start the speech by gaining your attention and making you interested.
On the last evening of my 25th college reunion, there was a party in a tent. There was dancing and music and noise, so much noise that a lot of us started to drift out of the tent so we could hear each other talk and catch up with classmates that we had not seen in more than 2 decades.
Pause and then start with the story. Notice how he does this. He goes to the center of the stage, takes a moment, composes himself, and then starts with a very detailed, very specific, descriptive story. And he does this so you can really see what it is that he's talking about when he describes it. Notice how this pulls you in, makes you interested, and it's a great way to start the speech.
In 2 decades. As I talked with my friends, I made an astounding discovery. 80% of them were unhappy with their
leading language. Notice how he says, and we found an astounding discovery. This is very much a TED Talk kind of thing, and we found something we couldn't believe. Gets you interested, you want to hear more. So what was the astounding discovery? You want to know right after he says that. So we've got this leading language. Again, it's not really telling you anything just yet, but it makes you interested, it makes you want to hear more, so you keep listening.
Life is all about. Now, I was privileged to go to Yale, and we were standing on a summer evening in the middle of Yale's old campus.
Credibility early on. Notice how this happens pretty early. He's like, and I was fortunate enough to go to Yale. Well, that's cool. Now we know you went to Yale, so we kind of trust, or at least we're a little more interested. We know you're not just some random guy off the street. Okay, at the very least we know this guy is someone who went to an Ivy League school. So he gives that to us early instead of later, just in order to build a little bit of credibility and to make us trust him just a little bit more.
Positions of power. And they had the first house and the second house. And they had the first spouse and the second spouse. And 80% of them were unhappy with their lives.
Fun with language. Notice here he says they have multiple houses, or their second house, and they were on to their second spouse. Now, I know this is kind of silly, but like at the same time, he could have been, and they had 2 houses, but they were so sad, and they had 2 divorces, and that was also awful, right? But houses and spouses, we're rhyming, we're talking about something serious, but we're still kind of having fun, so keeping it light, even though it's kind of discussing how people are not happy with their own lives.
And 80% of them were unhappy with their lives. Who was happy, the 20%? Well, we had studied
statistics to increase importance. Now notice what he's doing here. He says 80% of the people. I'm guessing there were 5 people, right? They just went outside of a tent. It's not like he's got this huge sample. There's probably 5, and 4 of them knew something or didn't know something, and then 1 of them did. Or maybe there were 10 people, 8 and 2, right? But it's not a huge sample, but by saying it as a percentage, it makes it seem like it's maybe a little bit more important. It almost seems like this is some sort of research study that's being done.
Their life purpose because they knew 5 things: who they were, what they did, who they did it for, what those people wanted or needed, and what they got out of it, how they changed as a result.
A preview of what's coming. Notice here he gives us the different elements that we're going to be exploring one by one as the speech goes on. So by doing this, he gives us sort of a roadmap. He also gives us something that we can look forward to. And again, another reason to continue listening to this speech.
Now, you're going to know your life purpose now in the next 5 minutes. Would you like to know your life purpose in the next 5 minutes? Can you be a little bit louder, because they're making a lot of noise in the tent, and there's just this silly little microphone next to my cheek to hear you. Would you like to know your life purpose in the next 5 minutes? Yes! Thank you.
Lead the audience. Notice here he says, now how many of you want to know your life purpose? People say, yeah. If you did this in a room where it was kind of small and there were just a few people, or like in a conference room or something, this would be pretty obnoxious, but it's okay for a giant stage like that, and also if you're the kind of person who feels comfortable doing it. It's not for everybody, but in this case it does make you want to listen a little bit more. You're watching at home on YouTube, you're like, hey, okay, I'm going to keep wanting to know more. I want to know my life's purpose, so I'm going to keep listening to this. So we asked that question, we're like, yes, and then after that we continue to watch.
Well, I know some people who have spent their entire lives trying to learn their life purpose. And look, we can all agree that the unexamined life is not worth living, but if...
Uniting language. I love this phrase you'll hear speakers say once in a while, and it's, we can all agree that blah, 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 blah. Or we can all agree that blah, blah, blah. This is one of those things where you don't really get a choice as an audience member. Do I agree? Do I not agree? But in this case, we were just assuming it, and then it builds relationship, it builds connection. It feels like we're all on the same page together. And then if I even agree with this, then it's like, oh, he knew that I agreed with this. Okay, great. So we all agree that this was a good point.
Fantastic. You have all just done something that people who went to Yale could not figure out for 25 years. Congratulations. Give yourselves a hand.
Make your audience feel good or smart. This is always something that if it comes off as sincere, it's always a good strategy. Now, if it comes off a little bit weird, disingenuous, then it's not a good strategy. But if it feels like the person really respects us, really thinks that we are the type of person that is smart or wonderful or has talent or any of that stuff, it does feel good when somebody says that about us, so it's never a bad thing to include in a speech. Again, this was a video that was about how to know your life purpose in 5 minutes. This was at the TEDxMalibu event a while ago. It's got over 13 million views, which is just crazy if you really think about that. And hopefully now some of the strategies that you learned from this speaker, you'll be able to use in your own speeches, and maybe your videos will have 14 million views, or maybe you'll just use this with a couple of people that you care about and it'll make a difference. So I hope this was cool, and I hope you have yourself a wonderful day.